Breaking news. The Russians have landed in trouble. A fire trap from the armed forces of Ukraine. Russian officers wiped out. A new tactic has cornered the invaders. Intelligence has leaked the enemy's assault plans. There's a mutiny in the Russian army. Ukrainian Titans have cleared the Kharkiv region. All this in our episode Hellpoint. A new level of intelligence on the front line. Mysterious air balloons in the sky. The Russians instantly hide. Aerostats are appearing on the battlefield. They could become the eyes of our air defense. Shaheds will freeze in the air. The enemy's cunning plans are now down the drain. They whine and complain that they didn't expect Ukrainians to resort to this. How do these flying devices work? And will the positions of enemy drone operators really be as clear as day? Now, we'll find out in just a moment.
The guys carefully spread a large protective blanket on the ground.
So that it protects, so it doesn't get punctured.
Then they take something out of the case that looks like a giant rubber mattress and start inflating it.
This is a preparatory process. It's usually done in a safe place, like at the base, or it's prepared and inflated somewhere before heading out.
In fact, it's an aerostat, a balloon filled with helium to provide communications from above.
In this case, it's a 12 cubic meter aerostat, meaning 12 cubic meters of helium. Roughly speaking, you need to fill it with two 40-liter cylinders to inflate it. They use it to lift various communication repeaters, FPV repeaters, cameras, basically any equipment that needs an extended radio horizon or a view from above.
You can assemble such a device very simply and quickly, Igor shares. In frontline conditions, the fighters bring it to their positions already assembled.
Before the mission, the guys put the already inflated balloon in a trailer and deploy it. In about 5 minutes, the aerostat is ready for launch.
Communication is extremely important for our defenders in the combat zone. Without it, it is impossible to carry out operations. Thanks to such an aerostat, strike, reconnaissance and ground drones are able to operate at much greater distances as well as detect enemy command posts in locations that cannot be reached on foot.
This reduces their problems with establishing communication and increases the range of the connection itself. And FPV communication as well. Additional equipment is needed there, but it also works much better.
A balloon like this is capable of lifting up to 6 kilograms of useful payload to a height of 500 meters. Thus, the aerostat provides communication for the military at distances of up to 100 kilometers. Moreover, the device can stay airborne for several days.
The aerostat is able to hover in the air for 3 days without needing to be refilled. After 3 days, it needs to be brought down to refill the gas that has escaped through the envelope. That's about 1 to 2%, depending on the weather. We top it up and then launch it back into the sky, and it keeps working.
The only thing that limits us is the battery installed on the equipment. If the battery lasts for 12 hours, then it will hover for 12 hours. After that, it needs to be brought down to replace the battery.
If someone thinks that such a bullet is easy to shoot down from a conventional small arms weapon, this is not at all true. Even if someone does manage to puncture the aerostat, the payload will most likely survive.
The advantage is that it doesn't fall like a stone.
The developers explain, in strong winds, it's better to bring the aerostat down to the ground so it doesn't suddenly get blown off somewhere into a neighboring country. However, even here, everything has been thought through down to the smallest detail.
There is an emergency landing system here. In case it breaks free, the system either activates automatically or can be triggered by pressing a special button. There are restrictions regarding weather conditions. Usually all global manufacturers declare 15 meters per second. That's the operational wind speed. 30, that's already the breaking point. But the guys have used it even at 20 and 22 when the mission needs to be accomplished.
Helium-filled aerial systems have become an important element on the front lines, especially given the widespread use of drones. Ihor says their company has deployed dozens of aerostats in the combat zone. They are equipped with antennas, radio repeaters, and more. Engineers are planning to place interceptor drones on the aerostats. This will make it possible to detect and intercept enemy Shaheds at their flight altitude, which will reduce response time.
It's still too early to talk about these projects because they are still in the development stage. It is possible to install special equipment that will track them.
Quite often, enemy kamikaze drones approach their targets unnoticed. The radars simply don't see them. Aerostats could become the eyes of the air defense forces. Aviation expert Kostiantin Krivolap is convinced.
In order to detect everything that is flying toward our territory, to identify it, process it, and assign target tasks, it is necessary to have radars at high altitudes. Not at 20,000 kilometers, but at least at 400 or 500 meters. Previously, a radar station was this huge contraption that would spin and rotate. Well, you probably can't attach something like that to an aerostat, but modern systems, active phased array antennas based on hafnium nitrate. Yes.
The Pentagon has been using air balloons in military operations for a long time now. In the early 2000s, the U.S. Department of Defense launched and tracked aerostats over Iraq and Afghanistan, equipped with payloads for reconnaissance. And last year, Poland signed a contract to purchase 4 American Barbara reconnaissance aerostats to monitor its borders with Russia and Belarus. The Ministry of Defense of the Republic claims that such devices are capable of detecting missiles, aircraft, drones, and watercraft within a radius of over 300 kilometers.
This includes full equipment, complete maintenance, service, software, workstations, and so on. Thanks to this system, they have complete control over the airspace and can then transmit all this information to the same Patriot complexes and to other systems.
The Poles paid nearly $1 billion for 4 American aerostats. Ukraine could also deploy such devices along the border or on the outskirts of cities, which would detect enemy targets from 100 kilometers away. Moreover, they are domestically produced and several times cheaper. Mikhailo Maneliuk, Vitaly Kovalenko, Podrobici, InterTV channel, United News Marathon.
And for even more exclusive news, follow the Times of Ukraine Telegram channel. Only up-to-date information and verified news. See the link in the description below the video. 50 enemy soldiers wiped out. Drone operators carried out a mega-successful operation right in the midst of the frontline hell. The infantry didn't even have to draw their rifles. All enemy assaults have been stopped. The audacious bikers were completely burned out. The enemy's new tactic failed in disgrace. These shots have already flooded the internet. You can't miss them. Watch the shocking video right now.
In these shots, the occupiers are arriving at combat positions on motorcycles and buggies. This is a relatively new but already widespread enemy tactic, our defenders say. In this way, the enemy tries to gain an advantage in speed and maneuverability, confuse drone operators, and increase the consumption of weapons.
When 30 or 20 men arrive in a single vehicle, we destroy that one vehicle and immediately take out, say, 30 men at once. That is, whoever managed to scatter, we finish them off, that's it. But when they come in one by one or in pairs on motorcycles accordingly, and they ride in these sort of columns, well, not real columns, sometimes it's 5 or 6 motorcycles at once. They scatter. So in one sortie, you might be able to destroy one vehicle, right? But by the time you reload, the others have already scattered into the tree lines. That's their, well, the enemy's ingenuity. They make use of that. That's a priority.
A fighter from the Heavenly Retribution Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 54th Separate Mechanized Brigade, which is currently operating in the Donetsk region, shares how to stop enemy assaults. Before the war, he was a lawyer. After the start of the full-scale invasion, he joined the armed forces of Ukraine. He operated Vampire night drones. Now he mainly works with FPV drones.
You prepare each drone individually, basically customizing, flashing, and configuring it yourself so that it can fly. There's a ton of work to do before the flight. You actually fly it yourself, so during the day, you can see everything, as they say, from a first-person perspective. That is, when you fly up to the enemy, to some piece of equipment, you see everything. Well, if the video is clear, not glitching, and there's no interference, you can even see their last looks. And that, well, is pretty cool.
Our interlocutor does not hide the fact that the enemy currently has an advantage both in the number of vehicles and in the number of soldiers. In such conditions, the only way to hold positions is through the effective work of drone operators.
one of the most recent assaults when I was at the position. Not a single enemy. Landing party at that time, they were landing, moving in and out in our direction. I counted about 50 to 60 men. We took out all 50 to 60 of them. Not a single shot was fired by our infantry, specifically from small arms. That is, we simply didn't let them get close to our infantry. The infantry didn't even have to reach for their rifles.
The soldier says, the footage we see in news reports, enemy equipment exploding, fighters destroying enemy headquarters and ammunition depots, is actually the result of careful planning and the high-quality work of usually several drone operator crews. And if there aren't enough strike kits, some missions may end up not being completed at all.
Unfortunately, well, FPV kamikaze drones have their priorities since we're more maneuverable, but there are downsides compared to the night drones. We can't carry as much explosive payload. It's about 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos and 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos. Well, that's not enough to destroy equipment. Even if it's a shaped charge, you still need to finish it off with another hit. You understand that if you have 20 or 30 of them at your position, you might try not to fly out for non-priority targets. If you already have, say, 30 or 40 at your position, you realize that you can use about 10 drones to, well, dig out some foxhole with pilots or infantry or destroy some enemy equipment.
A BRO fighter emphasizes the effectiveness of the Ukrainian army's operations directly depends on the quantity and quality of equipment and drones. And they are always needed at the front. Veronika Vidmetska, Podrobnosti, Inter TV channel, United News Marathon.
The armed forces of Ukraine have pulled off something. The launch of a new devastating drone and an anti-aircraft missile system has begun. This is what revenge looks like. The front is bursting at the seams. The Russian army is choking not only from the strikes, but also from desertion. Shocking incidents have come to light. All the details about this are coming up in just a moment.
The Queen of Hornets goes on the hunt. The first combat use of a drone with a grenade launcher by the armed forces of Ukraine. A new formidable weapon has appeared at the front. Drones equipped with an attached grenade launcher. For the first time, it was successfully tested in combat conditions. These unique shots are a real breakthrough for the tactical drones of the armed forces of Ukraine. The creators of this innovation are the pilots of the Bulava unit from the separate presidential brigade named after Bohdan Khmelnytsky. It was they who upgraded the drone by mounting a grenade launcher on it, creating what the unit has already dubbed the Queen of Hornets. The name is entirely justified. This metal predator is capable of delivering a very painful and precise sting. This is not just another bird carrying ammunition, it is an intelligent platform that allows the pilot to keep a safe distance, adjust fire, and operate with sniper-like precision. The idea of combining the drone's mobility with the firepower of a grenade launcher is a real upgrade in small group tactics. War is changing, and with it, so is the arsenal. The armed forces of Ukraine are acquiring not just more weapons, but increasingly high-tech solutions that allow them to seize the initiative even in the most challenging areas of the front. One thing is clear, the Queen of Hornets is just the beginning. And if this predator is already on the hunt, soon the sky will become even more dangerous for the occupier. 21st century technologies, drones, satellites, precision artillery. But somewhere deep within the Russian world, true medieval times still persist. In the units of the Russian army, methods of punishment are used against deserters that resemble the Inquisition more than discipline. In the 15th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, those who refuse to go into battle or try to escape are buried up to their necks in the ground. Their preventive procedure is called the tight pit. In a similar brigade, but numbered 9, they took an even simpler approach. Metal barrels. Deserters are simply locked inside for several days without water or food. Many do not come out of there alive. And to avoid reporting the death, such people are declared missing in action. No accountability, just another number on the list of those who have disappeared. This is not a modern army. It is an army of fear, cruelty, and degradation, where terror replaces motivation and repression replaces brotherhood. Meanwhile, the main intelligence directorate has, for the first time, shown detailed footage of the use of the S-200 surface-to-air missile system. The main intelligence directorate has officially resurrected the Soviet monster, the S-200, and it is back in action. For the first time, Ukrainian intelligence has officially confirmed the combat use of the modernized 5V-28 surface-to-air missile from the S-200 system, the Soviet air defense giant that was long considered decommissioned. This statement is not just retro nostalgia but a signal of the real combat return of a system capable of striking targets at enormous distances. According to Defense Express, 2 years have passed since its first use. In the summer of 2023, an unidentified missile struck Taganrog, and a year later, in April 2024, a long-range Tu-22M3 bomber was shot down from a distance of 308 kilometers, setting a record for strike range. There are also interesting details shown in the published footage. Contrary to rumors, the launch was carried out not from a mobile platform but from a standard stationary 5P-72V launch system, the same one that was used back in Soviet times. This disproves previous assumptions about a complete overhaul of the system and points to a skillful adaptation of old solutions for modern tasks. The S-200 is returning not as a museum exhibit but as a real weapon in the fight for the skies. If earlier Russian aviation could feel relatively safe beyond the horizon, now that confidence has been shattered. And at the front, a new era and a new escalation have begun. The Russians continue their assaults along the entire front line despite losses and failures. In total, there have been 166 recorded combat clashes, over 5,500 shellings, and more than 3,000 kamikaze drones. There have also been 78 airstrikes under the cover of which the occupiers launched their attacks. However, the armed forces are not just holding their ground, they are destroying the enemy in response along the entire front line. In the Kramatorsk direction, the armed forces of Ukraine are under constant pressure. Here, the enemy attacks in waves. Several mechanized assaults are followed by small assault groups. The pilots of Kholodny Yar destroy armored vehicles and infantry before they even reach the positions. Strike drones identify and engage targets deep behind enemy lines. The enemy is losing not only manpower but also the rhythm of battle. The Pokrovsk direction has become a symbol of the new Russian tactics. Massed motorized assaults have replaced heavy equipment. The enemy is adapting, sending mobile groups on motorcycles and infantry simultaneously across dozens of sectors. Often without success, but by sheer numbers and chaos, they try to break through. In just one day, the armed forces of Ukraine repelled 60 attacks in this direction. The fiercest fighting is taking place near Pokrovsk, Mirnograd and Udakne. Meanwhile, Special Operations Forces in another sector delivered a painful blow to enemy equipment. The latest Buk M3 air defense system and a Uragan-1 multiple rocket launcher were destroyed. The value of just one of the destroyed targets is $45 million. And that's not even counting the ammunition. The enemy has also made advances in Toretsk. And that's all for today. Tune in tomorrow for more.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
News.
A lightning operation by the armed forces of Ukraine and a failure for the Russian army. In the Kharkiv region, our people recaptured Berlin. Bloody battles for this bridgehead raged for half a year. The occupiers retreated. Ukrainian titans struck the enemy and seized the initiative. Putin's army has been disgraced. The soldiers are already awaiting punishment from the Russian generals. How did this special operation unfold, and why is it certain to go down in history? We'll tell you all the details in our report right now.
Deep underground at the command post, the commander of the Kartia Brigade gathers the best warriors. A solemn moment. After fierce battles, the fighters are receiving berets as awards for the first time. From now on, just like paratroopers and Marines, they have the right to wear them in everyday life. The brigade commander personally wets each beret and puts it on his subordinate. After it dries, it will forever retain this initial shape.
Ready to defend.
Ready to defend.
Ready to defend.
We are starting a new tradition of presenting the beret. The color of the beret is national blue. Charter.
Strength and pride to the heroes.
Fighters earn berets for a half-year offensive operation, the village of Lipsy, Kharkiv direction. Here, Ukrainian fighters managed to push back superior enemy forces and liberate heights and 200 hectares forest.
The goal was to push the enemy away from certain heights because in 2022, the use of artillery and multiple rocket launchers inflicted devastating strikes on the city of Kharkiv. Kartia was not working alone. Kartia was operating, together with the main intelligence directorate units, with units of the 92nd Brigade. Come on, come on.
The difficulty of the operation was that they had to advance on enemy positions where both the number of soldiers and artillery was far greater. The coordination of the entire offensive was the responsibility of this young battalion commander with the call sign Frenchman.
It was necessary to synchronize 3 battalions at the same time, and the actions were very complex. It wasn't just infantry operations, it also involved the use of armored vehicles with landing troops and providing covering fire. There were only a few logistical routes we could use to get in. It was truly a very, very difficult operation for us.
After the unexpected offensive, the Russians began gathering additional forces to try to regain what they had lost. The most troubling reinforcement for the enemy was a very powerful unit of FPV drones on fiber optics. But our forces held their ground. The Frenchman is confident Kharkiv is now safer.
Because of the elevations that the settlement of Liptsi has, they allow artillery and MLRS systems to be positioned here, which can reach Saltivka, just like last time. So if hypothetically the enemy had taken these heights, Kharkiv would once again be under threat of artillery shelling.
So it's not so much about the forest. The point is to drive them out of these heights, right?
They held onto these heights very tightly.
Now the fighters of Kharkiv and their neighbors from the 92nd Brigade have to deal with the main problem, fiber optic drones. A new enemy drone unit brought with them to the outskirts of Liptsi. A new insidious tactic, a drone ambush. In the 92nd Brigade, they consider this a serious problem because the enemy drone quietly waits for its target.
These FPVs take turns. They wait, they don't waste battery power, they just wait by the roadside. And when a potential pickup or armored vehicle passes by, they take off and sort of chase after it. Well, and right now this is a big problem, but we're fighting it too.
A drone on fiber optic cable. No electronic warfare system affects it. It hides in the grass by the roadside or on the roof of a neighboring building, from where everything is visible.
About these drones, if we go back to them, how can you fight against them?
The simplest, cool way is with a pump-action shotgun. If anyone has one, please, help us, help our armed forces. It's easiest to shoot them down with a pump-action shotgun. Not with anything else, not with electronic warfare, nothing like that. You won't be able to shoot them down. It can land somewhere, like on a branch, or maybe on a house, on some ruins or something like that. Well, it's small, really tiny. So if it lands, you just won't see it.
Now the greatest danger is not so much at the front line, but rather on the way there or back. The soldier with the call sign prosecutor is a driver. And it is his profession that has become one of the riskiest in this war. An FPV drone was already chasing him down a dirt road. A comrade saved him.
An enemy FPV started chasing, and the soldiers from the pickup opened fire with their rifles and hit the FPV literally, about 20 meters away in the air. There aren't many pleasant feelings in that situation.
And how do you get there now, when there are such drones? Do they set up ambushes for you?
Well, to be honest, with God's help.
Because of these drone ambushes, the soldiers are forced to stay at the front lines for weeks, without rotation. While we in the rear are waiting for good weather, at the front they're hoping for downpours, strong winds and fog. That's when it's possible to get there, evacuate or rotate people.
Sometimes it's even been up to 2 months.
You couldn't get them out?
There was no way, no opportunity. Honestly, if we had tried to evacuate under those conditions, people would have died. These are the new realities of war. In fact, drones. And we realize that this is probably what the future holds.
For now, along with assault rifles, soldiers are also being issued pump-action hunting shotguns. The Ministry of Defense recently adopted several types of pump-action shotguns as standard issue because an FPV drone on fiber optics flies more slowly and is less maneuverable. So there is actually a chance to shoot it down.
In practice, you already have to drive carefully. Pay more attention, and there are guys sitting in the back with shotguns and rifles. For example, this is an FPV ambush.
Near Kharkiv, the Russians have completely lost their fear. They fire at our troops while disguising themselves as civilians. The Ukrainian armed forces have prepared a worthy response for the enemy. Enemy forces are detected even as they approach the positions, and a real rain of drops begins to fall right on the occupiers' heads. Even the fastest motorcycles can't save them from death. No engine can drown out the fury of the Ukrainian defenders. How do our pilots manage to fight back against the occupiers, both day and night, despite exhaustion? We'll tell you about it in just a moment.
They fly into Kharkiv and can even go a bit further. Well, mostly they fly over Kharkiv, looking for equipment, and even if they don't find any, they just end up firing randomly.
For the enemy, civilians and soldiers alike, are targets. The overwhelming presence of drones in the Kharkiv direction is changing the course of the war.
There are definitely a lot more drones now. Plus, attack drones have appeared. Very common ones like the Molnia and even more advanced versions of the Molnia all are now being widely used. As for the infantry, basically their infantry are quite well trained. They know how to operate under drone drops, under FPV conditions. Overall, they're well prepared. In general, the enemy is evolving and learning from experience.
Previously, the life of the infantry depended on artillery. Now it depends on drone pilots.
Our task is to prevent the enemy from advancing towards our infantry.
These two guys work as a team, monitoring the sky and the ground, searching for the enemy and destroying them with drone drops.
They like to come in on ATVs, on motorcycles, in small groups, so they can be maneuverable. But while it doesn't work out for them because of all the FPV teams and Mavics, we detected them even as they were approaching, and they were destroyed before they could reach our positions.
Before the Easter truce, artillery pilots repelled a powerful assault by an entire enemy battalion. They burned everything that was on the vehicles. But the enemy still tries to push forward, taking advantage of each new lull.
And there were shellings. So no one really observed any kind of strong truce. They would come out of the tree lines, try to bring up ammo, try to bring supplies closer to our positions. We would spot them and just scare them off so they wouldn't approach our positions.
Maxim's partner is like his father, learning all the secrets from the younger pilots. In war, the age difference disappears.
My children are the same age as these guys.
So I don't feel anything. Everything is fine. I'm telling you, I feel just like them when I'm with them.
The hardest thing is to work in the fog. You can't see anything in the mist and there are no reference points. It's in this kind of weather that the enemy launches assaults. Due to constant stress and staring at monitors, almost all pilots already have eye problems. But there is no one to replace them. There are not enough people.
Of course, there aren't enough people. In terms of technology, well, there's also a certain shortage of drones right now. In fact, even the same Mavics are now in great shortage.
The enemy hunts these fighters both day and night, so their positions are carefully camouflaged.
Our pilots spend 24/7 underground. For most people, of course, sunlight is ordinary, but for our guys here, it's a luxury. Because going outside unnecessarily means putting themselves in danger. Enemy pilots and enemy artillery are constantly searching for the pilots' locations. So no one goes to the surface without a good reason.
All the fields around are pockmarked with craters from enemy artillery strikes. To make matters worse, the enemy has started dropping chemical munitions as well.
Drops. They drop munitions, throw grenades, and FPV drones are flying around. Recently, they dropped gas on a neighboring position. Every day, mortar and artillery fire rains down. And if you stay here a little longer, you'll hear the grads too. 3 ranging shots, then half a salvo. If you see all those little dots near the tree lines, that's all near the tree lines. That's near us, near the infantry. They shell everywhere.
Well, we're ready for this. We're used to it.
We do our job. We are motivated. We are defending our land.
After unsuccessful offensives, the enemy began to change clothes in Robotyne and pretend to be civilians. Our pilots immediately saw through the enemy's disguise.
We also observed a situation where the enemy dressed up as civilians, pretending they lived there. But there was a civilian sitting, and behind his house stood a mortar. And before that, this mortar had been firing at our infantry. We detected it and destroyed it. So they tried to disguise themselves as civilians, but in reality they're soldiers. You can tell they're young. You can see they're strong guys.
A 28-year-old pilot who used to work at a cement factory now protects our infantry from the sky in the Kharkiv direction. The aircraft has returned from reconnaissance. Now it's the bomber's turn to work. Somewhere in the tree line, an enemy infantryman was spotted.
It's very difficult to hit equipment with a grenade. I'm preparing an anti-personnel grenade for infantry, a grenade.
Without sleep or sunlight, under constant artillery shelling and airstrikes, these crews protect the lives of our infantry, even at the cost of their own. Ruslan Yaremchuk, Mikhailo Putyata, TSN 1+1, Marathon, United News, from the Earthen Direction.
That's all from me for now. I was with you, Darina Hutsakalo. Even more scorching news from the front in our next broadcast. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon.